presentation of Fox Sports.
We are Ballpark. We are Ohio.
To St. Petersburg, Florida, Tropicana Field. The losing streak for the Redlegs at 9 in a row is finally over after a series-opening victory here last night.
Came back in the eighth against a kid throwing left-hander, throwing 100, and go double, single to take the lead, and end up tacking on a couple more, which really was a big difference maker for us. And it did. It feels really good to come back and win that ball game.
It's been a while since we've played the music and had a good time after the game like that. It was great.
This one was huge. This one's really nice. It's pretty amazing what one man can do to the clubhouse and just the whole atmosphere. So we're definitely happy we got this one tonight.
Some of the comments made in the Reds clubhouse last night after that victory. Hi again, everybody. Alongside Chris Welsh and Jim Day, I'm Tom Brenneman. Welcome, as always, to Reds baseball. They needed it bad.
Boy, did they ever need it bad. And, it really started with Scott Feldman on the mound because the starting pitcher always sets the pace of the ball game. And the Reds are hoping that tonight with Amir Garrett on the mound, they're going to get that out of this big left-hander. He's a guy that early in the year threw the ball extremely well. In fact, he pieced together 3 quality starts to start his major league career. And then he fell on some hard times. After the Reds brought him back up from the minor leagues, he's still trying to find his groove, although he did go 6 innings of 2-run baseball his last time start. That was out in San Diego.
Meanwhile, for Tampa Bay, when Alex Cobb has been healthy in his major league career, he's a very good pitcher, and the same still holds true now that he is healthy
Well,
again.
He's had a hard time staying healthy. He had Tommy John surgery a couple of years ago. That's between the time that he pitched a 7-hit shutout against the Reds, or 7 innings of shutout baseball against the Reds in his only appearance against the Cincinnati team. Coming back from arm surgery, he's not going to throw quite as many split-finger changeups as he once did. His fastball's not overwhelming. But one thing that Alex Cobb can do, he can throw a curveball. And, he'll throw it at any time. If there's one pitcher out in the game right now that can throw a game of nothing but curveballs, he's on the mound for the Rays tonight.
All right, when we come back, one of the hitters he'll be facing in the Reds lineup tonight, did they get any hotter than Scooter? And scooting into the lineup on a regular basis now, our main man, Jim Day, feeling good, feeling strong, feeling healthy, is standing by with that and much more.
award-winning lineup, only at your Tri-State Chevy dealer. And by Skyline Chili. Feeling good, it's Skyline time. Inside the Trop, St. Petersburg, Florida, as we're getting set for Game 2 of this 3-game set between the Rays and the Reds. Scooter Gennett, Cincinnati born, but when he was in 3rd grade, moved to Sarasota, just south of here, so it's the closest MLB ballpark, and he'll have, once again, lots of family and friends in the crowd tonight, and he had them last night, and what a good night to show up to watch Scooter, because he had himself a night. 2 for 4, a double, his 9th home run of the season, and 2 RBIs, also scored 2 runs. With Zach Cozart on the disabled list, he is going to get a load of playing time with Peraza moving over to shortstop, and he continues to marvel in far fewer at-bats than most starters. It's our IGS bringing the energy. It's best at-bat RBI ratio, minimum 140 at-bats, and he is leading everyone, including the red-hot Cody Bellinger and even Paul Goldschmidt. Scooter Gennett continues to get it done. What a pickup for the Reds. He's back in the lineup tonight. Who else is in there as the Reds looking for 2 in a row? Amir Garrett goes to the hill. Tom Brenneman and Chris Wells standing by with all the play-by-play action here on Fox Sports Ohio.
Moment. Lieutenant Commander Jim Downing threw out tonight's ceremonial first pitch. He's 103 years young, the second oldest living survivor of Pearl Harbor. Was a gunnery mate on the USS Virginia. Was on shore when the attack began. He's in town for a speaking engagement at nearby Eckerd College. For those wondering, the oldest living survivor is 105 years old. Ray Chavez of San Diego. But great to have Lieutenant Commander Jim Downing here tonight. Well done. So the Reds in Game 2 of this 3-game set. Let's take a look at Brian Price's starting lineup. Presented by Menards. Hamilton, Jeanette Votto, Duvall, Suarez, Shevler, Mesoraco tonight the DH. Barnhart catching. Peraza is at short. On the mound, when healthy, rock solid, is right-hander Alex Cobb.
Well, he's rock solid because he's got a nice variance of breaking pitches that can keep a hitter off his fastball. His fastball's not overpowering. 90-91 for Alex Cobb. Had Tommy John surgery a couple of years ago. They feel he's completely back now, but he's changed his repertoire a little bit. The Tommy John surgery, a lot of people feel like, can be aggravated by a split finger fastball or too many sliders, and he threw a lot of split fingers. So he doesn't throw quite as many now, but it's a very good pitch for him. His main pitch, however, is a curveball. Changes speeds and locations on that curveball pitch.
And by the way, it was noted before the game today that he throws more first pitch breaking balls than any pitcher in Major League Baseball, and also has the highest percentage of those for a first pitch strike. So certainly the Reds are well aware of those numbers, and here we go with Hamilton digging in. That is a fastball, and it's outside ball, 1 run underway. Cobb is 29 years old. He grew up on the other side of the state over in Vero Beach, Florida. Hamilton shows bunt. It's in there, a strike. When they brought him up his first full year, won 11 games, 23 starts, went 11-3 the following year. And then a 2.8 ERA in 2014 in 27 starts. But then the Tommy John surgery, and as Chris mentioned, he did not come back to the Major League club until September of 2016.
Yeah, the other injury he had along the way, Tom, isn't really an injury to your body, except that he was hit by a line drive in 2013. And the concussion effects that he had for that really lasted an entire season.
1-2 on Billy Hamilton. And it's one of the scariest pieces of video you'll ever see.
Yeah, sure is.
It was, many of you perhaps even remember when that occurred to Cobb.
Game against the Kansas City Royals. I think it was Eric Hosmer that hit him right in the ear with a line drive that he had no chance of getting out of the way of.
And Hamilton had no chance of getting to that breaking ball, and that's an out to begin the ball game on strikes. This is the video from that injury 2 years ago. Terrifying. And thank God, turned out to be all right.
Now, when they took him to the hospital that night, they immediately did tests and scans, and the word came back to the bench that he had not suffered any major, head trauma. But David Price was his teammate back then, and he went with him to the hospital, spent a lot of time with him really through the night. And it was one of those moments that kind of, it scares everybody in the entire ballpark and anybody who's watching, but it had a tendency to galvanize the team a little bit.
Well, here's Scooter Gennett. He's really galvanized this Reds team when he gets a chance to play. The numbers have just been incredible. 293 batted, 9 home runs, 37 runs batted in. You're thinking, okay, well, there are a lot of guys with those numbers in Major League Baseball, and you'd be right. There are a number of players that have those kind of numbers so far in Major League Baseball. They do not have those kinds of numbers in 147 at bats. Most regular players are up over 250. And you see Scooter 9 more than the next closest player with 150 or fewer at bats, Gerardo Parra. And there's a walk to Scooter Gennett. He's a 1-out base runner. The Reds, after the win, pick up their 30th victory of the season last night. They've lost 39. They're 6.5 behind front-running Milwaukee. The Brewers lost last night. Meanwhile, for Tampa Bay, if the season ended today, they would be tied for the second wild card berth in the American League, 1 game over 500. Now Joey Votto. 3 hits in the game last night, 3 singles, 2 runs scored, and he broke the 3-3 tie in the 8th inning. After Gennett led things off with a double, Joey drove him in with a base hit into center field. Really pitching away from the pattern that he has set so far this year is Cobb. It's a 3rd straight batter he has started in this game with a fastball.
The other pattern he's bucking so far, Tom, is that he's working much quicker than he has traditionally throughout the season.
although you might not notice that. I mean, they track these kind of things on all sorts of different websites, and one of the things they do is how long does it take a pitcher to deliver his pitch after he receives the ball back from the catcher. And he's the third slowest in baseball right now, Cobb is, but he's cutting his time down significantly here so far tonight. I got the watch on him.
Fly ball by Votto. This is playable for Corey Dickerson, and that is his second out of the inning. And Scooter bluffs a tag to stay put. We look at the Rays on defense, presented by Ford. You know about Dickerson. Peter Borges is in center field tonight. Souza Jr. in right. May remember during the game last night, Tim Beckham hit with a pitch. No structural damage, but clearly it's still very sore, so he's not in there. Robertson is at short, and Featherston is the second baseman. Featherston came into the game last night and played second, moving Robertson over to short, and that's the way they'll start him here tonight. 1 on, 2 out. Adam Duvall bats. On the inside corner, a strike. Duvall 1 of 4 in the game last night. Had a single. He drew a walk and scored a run. Duvall 16 home runs. Schebler hit number 19 last night, joining Votto with 19. Well, what a powerful trio they have been for this Cincinnati team through the first 2.5 months of the year. In fact, they are on pace, that trio, to hit 126 home runs, and that would be a franchise record from 3 players combined on any Reds team. In 1970, Johnny Bench hit 45, Tony Perez hit 40, and Big Lee May hit 34, adding up to 119. That trio holds a record. Shin or inside of the left knee. Yeah, left knee. One ball, 2 strikes on Duvall. And blows him away with a fastball to end the inning. 1 walk, 1 left. Amir Garrett will get the ball when we return. fans are down in this part of the western coast of Florida, and it have come into the ballpark last night tonight.
You know, a lot of people, Tom, also came down to the Tampa Bay area for this series. Maybe a little vacation time coming down here in June. Normally, you'd expect to see sunny skies and warm temperatures. I mean, in the 90s, but we have not seen much in the way of sun. The humidity, of course, is here. But it's been a very pleasant couple of days here for the Reds. Not really much rain to speak of.
Take a look at the starting lineup for the Rays. Souza Jr. in right, Dickerson in left, Longoria at third, Morrison tonight the DH, Plouffe over at first with Robertson at short, Borges in center, Featherston at second, Sucre behind the plate. And on the mound, the very talented young left-hander, the rookie Amir Garrett.
Something to build on his last time out. 6 innings, 2 runs against the Padres. Had it going pretty good after he got knocked out of the game, literally, by a line drive off his pitching hand against the Los Angeles Dodgers the time before.
Well, you know the story and the way the season so far has gone for Garrett. Many of you do. You know, he comes out of the gate in his major league career. He goes 6 innings, no runs, 6 2/3, 2 runs, 7 innings, 2 runs. That game, his final start the last week of April in Milwaukee, but he bounces back the next 2 games, goes 7 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, 6 innings, 2 runs in a win over the Giants, and the Reds decided it was time to send him to the minor leagues. Trying to navigate the number of innings he's going to work this year, and look, more than likely, although they never said it, by sending him down for almost 2 full weeks, it keeps you from really having to start the clock on Garrett reaching arbitration and ultimately a free agent year. Sharp grounder down at third. Nice play by Suarez. 1 out. But since he has come back, it has just been really, really rough. 4 innings, 6 runs. 5 innings, 7 runs. 2 2/3, 9 runs against Atlanta. And then the game he was knocked out, you throw out the window. You're hoping you can build upon that last start against San Diego.
Well, you know, pitchers are a lot like hitters. They're streaky. You get hot, you get cold. Sometimes it's easy for a period of time. Other times it's like you're relearning baseball all over again. And you can even amplify that when you're talking about young players, rookie players, making their way through the major leagues the first time. So you ride the streak as hard as you can, then you try to get them back on track when they fall off. And really what made Amir Garrett good in the beginning of the year was he really kept it simple. He just threw the ball down around the knees, and that was it. Didn't try to go in and out and hit the corners. And I think that's really what this philosophy that he is trying to go back to right now. You know, sometimes you can get too fancy out there. You think, all right, well, you know, you read a scouting report and they say, hey, when you get 2 strikes on this guy, climb the ladder. Well, if that's not you, then you shouldn't try to do that.
Pitch down there and swung on and fouled out of play. This was a guy last night in Dickerson we talked about. You know, he's the modern day, if you will, Manny Sanguillen. I mean, you throw it anywhere and there's a chance he's going to hit it. They had a game against the Rangers recently where a ball bounced in the dirt and he hit it and got a base hit. And you see he doesn't back down to the left. He's nearly a .340 average. Straight away center field. This will be out number 2. Well, Mack Jenkins has been putting in tireless hours trying to get Garrett straightened out and back where he was. Take a look at the Reds on defense presented by Ford. Battery of Garrett and Barnhart tonight. Regular cast of characters in there. This will be anyway now that Cozart is on the DL for 10 days. You know, Chris, you've talked a lot about Mack Jenkins over the course of this year, the Reds pitching coach. And I mean, the last 2 years since he was named to that job, I mean, it's one rookie after another, after another, after another. How does he get any sleep at night?
You go all the way back to the days of Don Gullett. It seemed like when Gullett was in at the pitching coach of the Reds, he was given one rehab project after another. And a couple of pitching coaches later, here is Mack Jenkins, who spent a long time in the minor leagues as a Reds pitching instructor, coach, coordinator,
you know, moved through the system, got the big league job as the assistant pitching coach when Mark Riggins was named the pitching coach at the major league, in the minor league level as a pitching coordinator. So they took Jenkins out of his job, moved him up to the major league. He was the assistant to Brian Price. And then when Brian Price got the big league job, Mack Jenkins got the big league head job as pitching coach.
Thought I saw you down there visiting with Mack a little bit before the game today. And Schebler lost that one. We talked about this last night. Can be very difficult when you only play here, in the Reds' case, 3 games all year long, looking up into that just off-white dome above. Schebler is not going to get to this one. So it should have been the 3rd out of the inning. Gives Longoria a second life, and he takes advantage with a 2-out double to right center field. By the way, no error was charged on that play on Schebler.
Well, he was very quiet last night, Longoria was. The Reds held him in check. He was 0 for 4 with a couple of ground balls and a couple of fly balls. This time he splits the seam with a hard hit double. You know, I guess the ruling for an error is if you lose the ball in the lights or you lose the ball in the sun, you give the fielder the benefit of the doubt, and he does not get the error, even though it looked like it was a catchable ball.
Let's see if Garrett can pitch around that play that could have been made. And here's Logan Morrison, their big slugger. He has 21 home runs, 47 runs batted in. And the fastball runs up and in.
Well, with so many left-handed hitters in this lineup, the Rays have really struggled against left-handed starters. In fact, they are 8 wins and 16 losses when the opposition starts southpaw.
Straight up in the air, and it looks like Garrett will pitch around, in essence, a 4th out in the inning, and Hamilton's there, and that's that. A hit, 1 left. No score, end of 1 in St. Pete. Brought to you by T-Mobile. How about Anthony Rizzo, moving him into that leadoff spot?
Well, first it was Kyle Schwarber in the leadoff spot. That didn't work out, so Joe Madden goes in there with another slugger
And it has worked out pretty well so far. Look at he has done .440 batting average. And Clayton Kershaw getting touched up a little bit with the long ball, even though he is 10-2 with a pretty nifty 2.61.
He gave up 4 of them in a game last night. First time in his major league career. I think he'll still take 10-2 with the 2.6 ERA though. All day, every day. We were talking about Mack Jenkins earlier. Boy, what he wouldn't do to have a guy like Kershaw to anchor this rotation and maybe help us on the way very soon in Homer Bailey. Bailey had another excellent outing last night. There's a bouncing ball to short, and that will be the first out of the inning. Bailey got a win last night in Louisville, and Jim Day, by all accounts, his next start could come as a Red.
Indeed, they said that he's going to throw a bullpen tomorrow in Louisville. Now they're just being extra cautious and making sure that he gets through that bullpen. But Brian Bryce said before the game, it is very highly probable that he will make his next start with the Reds, and that would be this weekend in D.C. By the way, they need 2 starters this weekend. Who's going to go on Friday? That still is yet to be determined. Brian Price said that pitcher, they know who it's going to be, but they've yet to tell that pitcher, or at least they say so, and have not told us who's going to start Friday.
Did he lead you to believe, Jim, that would be a pitcher that's on the current roster or someone who's not here?
He did rule out Luis Alberto Bonilla from making that start, and he's the long guy right now, and you look in the bullpen and throughout this 25-man roster, and there's really not a candidate. If I'm going to guess, it would be someone at AAA.
All right, Jim Day, I know you'll be all over it. We have no television tomorrow, but you can rest assured that Jim Day will be down in that Reds clubhouse hours before the game tomorrow, quite a while after the game, and then probably spending significant time with some of the powers that be during the off day, I would imagine, in D.C. on Thursday.
Just in order to get the scoop. And why not?
Gone swinging is Schebler. Jim, how are you getting along at the Vinoy right now, knowing that there's a history of it being a haunted hotel, and apparently you're not all that crazy about that, although you have no problem staying at the Pfister, to my knowledge.
I've had no problem at the Pfister. The only ghost I've seen at the Vinoy is the ghost of Chris Welsh and pictures from the 80s. But yeah, we're getting along. It's a very, very famous hotel, though, with lots of stories, and MLB teams stay there, and there have been legendary tales of MLB players swearing they've seen ghosts.
But, I mean, we've heard the same thing in Milwaukee, right?
Oh, yeah. In fact, Joe Nuxall swears that he saw one back in the day.
He did. His name's Marty Brenneman. All right, 2 down in the inning, and here's Devin Mesoraco. Devin yesterday celebrating a birthday. 1 ball and 1 strike on Mesoraco, and there's a liner into left center field. It'll fall in, a base hit. We were asking Devin, how in the world do you have your birthday and you're not in the lineup? He said, I politicked like crazy to get in there last night. Brian said, nope. We'll need you the next 2. Tucker Barnhart starting behind the plate for the 2nd consecutive game. Actually, make it 3 in a row. He started the finale against the Dodgers. Tucker rolled for 4 last night. So you look at this move by Cobb, and Chris, I think you could make the argument, you and I have talked about this a lot. I think you could make an argument that he is in blatant deception for the runner at first base by, in essence, having a double pause when he goes into his stretch.
Well, the umpires have told me, Tom, that they'll give these pitchers like Alex Cobb a leeway until he finally stops, and there's the stop. As long as he makes that full stop, you can kind of jitter and jolt and go back and forth until you get to that spot. But I happen to agree with you. By the letter of the law, this ought to be a balk, because you start, you stop, you start again, you stop again.
I just can't believe they're letting a lot of this stuff go like they are.
And like one major league umpire told me, if I wanted to, I could find a balk on every pitcher.
On his way first to third is Mesoraco. Well, you and I sit up here all the time and watch every pitcher. And look, the umpires are down there. We're not. Reds have them on the corners with 2 outs. I don't agree with that statement at all.
I don't either.
95% of the pitchers we see come into games, start games, relievers. They are not deceiving anybody.
Well, you see, my point would be is that I think the stolen base is an exciting part of baseball. And the more you give leeway to a pitcher to push the envelope on that balk rule, the more you're shutting down the running game, taking away an exciting part of the game for the fan. So I say, you know, enforce it the way it should be enforced. And a pitcher like Alex Cobb wouldn't be able to have these double and triple moves until they finally get set.
All right, on the corners, a 2-out rally, singles by Mesoraco and Barnhart, giving Peraza a chance to get the Reds on the board. And he takes ball 1. Peraza 0 for 3, hit by a pitch in the game last night. Going back to his original position is Peraza, with Zach Cozart to the disabled list. One ball, one strike on the Red shortstop, Jose Peraza. And a base hit into right field to get the Reds on the board. 3 straight 2-out singles. Mesoraco, Barnhart, and now Peraza. Reds 1, Rays nothing.
Number 6, Billy Hamilton.
Now, you really like to see Peraza do a little more of this. Hit the ball on the button, gets a hanging breaking ball right there, and just takes it the other way.
Now Billy Hamilton, he looks at a strike. Billy struck out leading off the game. Billy lifts this one into left field. This will be playable by Dickerson near the line, but the Reds on the board. A 2-out rally and a 1-0 lead. Storyline brought to you by Elk and Elk the Rays. Chris mentioned earlier, they've really struggled in left-handed pitching. Conversely, against right-handers, they're really, really good. And the Reds with a left-hander, Amir Garrett, hoping that will go to 8-17 for the Rays before this one's over.
Well, you know, there aren't all that many left-handed starters. You can count them really on one hand in the National League Central Division. So nowadays, as you look forward, I mean, the fewer left-handed starters there are in your division, the more you really need to load up with left-handed hitters. That's what the Rays have done. But you can see where they rank now in batting average against left-handers. They are the lowest of anybody in the American League.
All right, here we go. Bottom of the second inning. Reds lead 1-0. It'll be Plouffe, who made his Rays debut after coming over from Oakland over the weekend. Be followed by Robertson and then Peter Borges. 2-0 on Plouffe. Plouffe's been around a while. He was a big prospect, real big prospect. Coming up initially with Minnesota and had some pretty good power number seasons. He's got some pop in at bat. Had 24 home runs in 2012 for the Twins, hit 22 the following year. But the Twins decided to let him go at the end of last season. Started this year in Oakland and now in Tampa Bay. Suarez gobbles it up. 1 out.
It's a good way to put it for Suarez. As he got good over there at third base at one. I mean, just little by little, and all of a sudden you don't notice it anymore. But he makes every play. The hard hit ball, the backhand ball across the bag, down the line, the slow roller play where he gloves it with his, or when he fields it with his bare hand and throws it on the run. And it has taken a lot of hard work along the way to get there.
But he's the kind of guy, and we've talked about it before, he's more than willing to put in that work. It's a lot like Votto in that regard. I mean, they are both grinders, not only blessed with a lot of talent, but man, you get the combination of a guy with talent and then a grinder on top of it. Now you're onto something.
You better believe it.
I mean, right there grinding with him is Freddie Benavidez. I mean, all these Reds coaches, they're grinding all the time. I know you were talking to Mack Jenkins, Chris, for a long time before the game tonight. Billy Hatcher.
Well, you know, in the case of Eugenio Suarez, you can't forget the influence that Brandon Phillips had on him defensively. I mean, he was very close to Phillips. They took infield at the same time. He has adopted a number of the fielding drills that Phillips used to do all the time, including taking a lot of ground balls on your knees right at the edge of the grass. And then the other thing, he would use one of those fielding gloves that look like a pie plate where there's no pocket in it, so that it encourages, or it really demands, the fielder to use two hands and get in front of the ball.
Gone swinging is Robertson. First strikeout of the night for Amir.
Amir's a three-pitch pitcher. He's got a fastball, a slider slash curveball, and a changeup. And that changeup, very important pitch to right-handers.
Peter Borges originally came up with the Angels, had some good years with them, then was dealt over to St. Louis, and ever since then it's been a tough go for this speedy center fielder. Votto somehow got the glove up in time, and that'll end the inning. We play 2. Reds lead by 1.
documented it well that he was Cincinnati born and raised until the 3rd grade. In the middle of 3rd grade, his family moved just south of here to Sarasota. His final teacher in Cincinnati was his 3rd grade teacher. It was Mrs. Snyder, Sharon Snyder. And during that season, or that half year, I should say, he gave a baseball to her, a signed baseball, and said, please keep this baseball because one day I'm going to be famous. She kept the baseball, and lo and behold, Scooter Gennett, very famous.
Especially after what happened, of course, on the 6th of this month against the St. Louis Cardinals, when he became one of just 17 in the history of Major League Baseball to hit 4 home runs in a single game. A perfect 5-for-5 game, knocked in 10 runs. Great story, Jim Day. Boy, it's good to have Jim feeling well again.
Well, you know, when he's out prowling around the corridors of the haunted hotel, the Vinoy Renaissance, you know he's back to feeling up on top of the world.
No question about it, although we really missed him last night. We understand that you know, every time he sat down inside of the dugout area, that some of the stuff technically wasn't working all that well. And I had suggested to him, since he had made the comment what a good unicycle rider he is, that he ought to just sit up on top of the unicycle down there, park it in the dugout, then everything will work. It'd be a little higher than everybody else.
Oh, you just want me to break my back.
No, you're the one that said you were good at it.
I said years ago. It has been decades.
Doesn't matter. If you didn't bring it up, no one would have ever known.
Yeah.
Don't lay that on me.
Decades ago, I rode a unicycle. And not one of those real tall ones. It was mostly the shorter ones. I could probably give it a go again, though.
Well, we keep waiting. It's kind of like that Johnny Cueto video that we sat on for about 5-6 years. Till we busted it out 2 years removed from being a Red.
Oh, that was the greatest ongoing gag ever, by the way.
There might be a better one right now going on. There's a bouncing ball to second and a throw. And the runner's out. Looked like Votto had pretty much shut it down. We'd have to see it again. But, yep.
I think he shut it down from out of the batter's box, and then about halfway down gave it a little bit of a go, but not enough to get there. You know, you just never know when the opposition is going to have a hiccup defensively. Looks bad when it happens.
2 down in the inning, and here's Duvall. He struck out his first time up. There's a high drive into deep left center field, but that's a deep part of this ballpark, and look at the confusion out there. Duvall's on his way to third. Here comes the throw, and he's in there safely. Well, Borges doesn't get a lot of playing time, but under normal circumstances, you would think that's a center fielder's ball, and Borges is known as a good defender.
Well, he's a very good defender, and he's very fleet of foot, and he's normally very sure-handed. I don't think he lost this in the lights. I think he was just spooked out there by the left fielder that came right over there, almost tried to take command. Well, that's a kind of misplay that happens that you just really love to take advantage of right here.
You know, those were the kinds of plays that were commonplace a year ago for this Rays team. I mean, they were among the worst defensive teams to watch day in and day out in all of baseball. So a runner at third with 2 outs. And here's Suarez. He looks at a breaking ball and there's a strike.
And I imagine that goes down as a triple, right?
Yep.
That's the inequity of scoring right there. I mean, if you're a pitcher and this run comes around to score, it comes down as an earned run.
And it's going to come around to score on a base hit by Suarez. You know, you brought up something earlier that, you know, look, you understand it as you get a look at this RBI by Suarez. You understand it when you talk about you lose a ball in the lights, you lose a ball in the sun. But at the end of the day, is it a play that should have been an out? And so if a guy loses a ball in the sun, well, I mean, it is too bad. And you don't wish that on anybody. But unlike that pop-up down the line where, Schebler's not charged for an error, that's got to be an out. Just like the one that was just hit into left center. It's got to be an out.
I mean, I've seen plays where an outfielder will lose a ball in the sun and he's have his sunglasses on top of his head, on the brim of his cap. But still, it does not go down as an error. So that's one of those things that, I guess you're splitting hairs, but it ought to be looked at. I mean, now that every error, everything in baseball is counted.
Good effort right there by Longoria. And able to leg out an infield hit is Schebler. So it should have been a 1-2-3 inning here for Cobb, and the Reds are taking advantage of that ball that was not caught in left center field, turning into a triple for Duvall. Suarez drives him in, and now Suarez goes to second on an infield hit by Schebler. And here's Mesoraco. We talked about all the Reds fans that were here and how many transplanted Ohioans there are down in this part of Florida. A chance to run into an old buddy here at the ball game tonight. And there are a lot of you that are in that 50-something crowd that will remember the name Tim Ferguson. First team All-State basketball player out at Anderson High School. 2 years in a row was first team All-City. Wound up going and playing down in Tennessee, Chattanooga. Tim and his family have lived down here for quite a while. Boy, what a player he was. That was a #1 ranked team in the state, Anderson, his senior year. And Moeller for the tournament brought up some guy that nobody had ever heard of named Byron Larkin. And in the regional finals, the sophomore Larkin would lead Moeller to the state finals. He played JV all year. Swing and a miss. 2-2 on Mesoraco.
And the rest is history.
The rest is indeed history. As he would, of course, lead Moeller the next 2 years thereafter and become the all-time leading scorer in the history of Xavier Musketeers basketball. Great player. Great guy. Great family. 2-2 pitch. Gone swinging Mesoraco. But the Reds, like they did an inning before, get 3 straight 2-out hits and lead 2-0. where Jim Day's doing a little ghost hunting or trying to dodge the ghosts. Chris, have you had any encounter?
I have not. Although Jim Day, I think, is on my same floor, maybe next door or across the hallway. I was wondering where those strange sounds originated. Maybe Jim could shed some light on that.
I heard a few strange sounds last night. I don't know what it was, but Jim, you might be onto something.
It may have been the worst bit I've ever done on television.
That was some great video, though.
Oh, come on. It was fun. You got to have a little fun. Reds finally had a little fun for the first time last night in a while after losing 9 in a row. I think that ball hit something. It's still in play. And unable to get over there was Suarez or Peraza. There's a lot of foul ground in this ballpark.
Looked like a group effort down there.
Did you think it hit something? I thought it did.
Well, they've all lost it for a moment. That's what means I would think it hit something too.
Garrett had no idea where it was. We talked about it last night. If you weren't with us, we'll give you a look. You know, they have 4 levels of catwalks, but only 3 of them are really a big deal because the 4th one, there's no debate about what it is. It's a home run that's hit 800 miles out beyond the fence. But you see the 3 right there at the very top, then the one in the middle, and the 3rd one down with lights, A, B, and C. And there are different ground rules as you start moving closer to the field of play. For 2 of them, ball's active, it's in play. For a 3rd one, that's a home run.
If fair.
Yes.
Well, the first one's up here, the second one is there, and then this is the 3rd one here. So A, B, and C there are the 3. And there's a line marked on both B and C, so the umpires can take a look. But the problem is, from what the big league umpires that are around here tell me, is that there are no cameras that are fixed. So that when a ball is up there and it seemingly goes out of sight, the review team in New York oftentimes doesn't have a really great look at it. And that's one of those things they'll probably end up fixing. Now, if it hits this one back here, that is a home run.
Right, that's the one I said it's a no-brainer. They shouldn't even include that with the rest of them because it's so far above the second deck. It's clearly a home run.
In fact, they used to have a line painted on that one right there, just about here. And they said, well, why do we need a line there? We already have a foul pole. So they took the line away.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on this, but if I'm not mistaken, it was a ball hit by Alex Rodriguez. The first year there was instant replay to judge fair, foul, home run or not. That was the only thing you could use it for.
Yeah.
And it was hit down the left field line in this ballpark. I believe that's right.
That was the first ever review. Yeah, you're right about that.
0-1 the count. And a fly ball off the end of the bat. This might fall, and Schebler will run it down. Quick throw into first. That's a good play by Schebler.
You know, he is deceptively fast.
Yep.
He's a big guy. He runs hard. He looks like a fullback when he runs, Schebler does. But he covers a lot of ground.
Well, hey, they got a fullback that grew up right down the road here that's a Pro Bowler every year. They call him Pancake DeMarco. And he can move too now. Built a lot like Schebler. Back to the top of the order now, and Souza Jr. He bounced to Suarez, hit the ball sharply his first time up. Red single runs in each of the last 2 innings. And a 2-0 lead in the last of the 3rd inning. 2-0 on Souza Jr. And there's ball 3 low. Garrett walked the leadoff man in this 3rd inning, Featherston. Taking all the way at 3-0, 3 balls and a strike. Now Souza wanting timeout. He walks a good 25 feet, 20 feet out of the batter's box onto the grass area. I don't know if he may have injured himself.
Well, looking at that 3-0 pitch,
I mean,
he hasn't swung the bat in this
I
at
know,
bat yet.
but he just looks kind of, he just appears as though something's bothered him. That's a 2nd walk in this inning now by Amir Garrett. Wonder if we'll see Mack Jenkins here. Well, check out the Front Gate Outdoor Luxury Suite at Great American Ballpark. I mean, a spectacular view of the field. They have a buffet, full beverage service, comfortable seating, so much more. If you're thinking about a group outing, check out the Front Gate Outdoor Luxury Suite. Visit reds.com/groups. So no visit by pitching coach Jenkins. 2 walks in the inning. 1 out, and here's Dickerson, who came into the game batting .325, and we showed you a .340 batter against left-handed pitching. Garrett got him on a fly ball to Billy Hamilton in the 1st inning. Boy, Garrett is having a really hard time finding the strike zone here in this 3rd.
And it's all of a sudden, it seems like he's beginning to get too fine. Mack Jenkins sees something wrong, and he'll go out there, presumably give him a couple of tips. But early in the ball game, he was just attacking the strike zone, keeping it nice and simple, throwing the ball down around the knees, not really caring whether it was inside or outside. Now, looks like he's trying to be a little bit too fine, trying for certain corners rather than staying down first. You know, there's an old saying in pitching, Tom, you know, down before in and out, and then in and out before up. Guy that made that famous, a very good pitching coach named Jim Benedict.
Well, you were talking with Mack Jenkins, and I think it was Austin Bryce about Jim Benedict before the game today down on the Reds bench.
Well, Bryce had Benedict down in the Miami Marlins organization. He's now one of the roving pitching coaches, the director of pitching for the Marlins. There seems to be pitching coaches everywhere. Brian Price, Mack Jenkins, Ted Power here on the Red side. A lot of times just one little simple thing is what you want to do when you go out there and talk to a pitcher. Give them something encouraging, give them something to work on. The last thing you want to say, even if you're an amateur coach and you go out and see your pitcher, is don't do this or don't do that. Don't start it with something negative. Start positive.
Sharply hit and by Jeanette into right field to hit. Throw coming to the plate, cut off. And the Rays are on the board. Couple of walks in the inning now. Base hit. It's a 2-1 ball game.
I'm not really sure why that throw came to the plate. But Dickerson really took a chance right here that the Reds were going to try to get a play at the plate or at least throw to third base. So he slashes this ball right by Jeanette, who dives and makes a good effort. And he never stops. He goes right into second base, and Schebler comes up hits the cutoff man, but not in time by Votto to be able to get him going into second. So that takes away the double play.
Yeah, that was not a good decision. You had no chance to throw out Featherston at the plate. And now you deal with the number 3 hitter, the third baseman Longoria. He doubled into right center field his first time up. Strike one. Tying run at third. Go ahead run for the Rays stands at second. 1 out in the inning. Back to the mound. Drop the ball. Recovers in time to keep the runners at bay and get the second out of the inning. That's an important out with 1 more to go now for Garrett.
That's a good play by Amir Garrett. Kind of kept his cool out there, even though he looked like he was, on fire. He knocks it down, and he's checking the runner, and then he checks the runner again. I mean, that's just, keeping your head out there.
All right, so Logan Morrison stands in the way of maintaining this 2-1 lead. Runners at second and third. Morrison popped up to Billy Hamilton, ending the first inning. Breaking ball away. One ball and 1 strike. Runners at second and third. Third straight breaking ball from Garrett. And that's a swing and a miss to get ahead at 1 ball 2 strikes. One more strike, 1 more out to go for Amir. Came with a fastball and it just missed the outside corner. Hit left field. 1 run scores. Here comes a runner from second and a 2-run single on a 2-strike pitch by Logan Morrison gives the Rays a 3-2 lead.
Yeah, balls that have found the holes in the infield here. This is the second fastball in a row. And, I got to wonder because the way that Corey Dickerson was swinging at the curveball from Amir Garrett, I'm wondering why they backed up the fastball with another one.
Yeah, the first 3 pitches in that at bat to Morrison were all breaking balls to get ahead at 1 ball and 2 strikes. And on the 1-1 pitch, he swung and missed badly. And then they double up on the fastball after missing on the 1-1 pitch.
And they just missed on that fastball outside, which was a really good pitch. And then you come back. So when you just miss off the plate with a pitch, you're defining the outside part of the zone for the hitter. And to make it a strike, you've got to come in a little bit. I think he saw that one a lot better.
Well, the inning started with Garrett walking the leadoff man. 1 out later, issuing a second walk. Both of those have scored plus 1 more, and he is still missing the strike zone pretty regularly. 3-1 the count, and the throw over to first. This will be the 29th pitch in this inning for Amir Garrett. And he's behind 3-1 on Trevor Plouffe. In the air, Barnhart will give it a look, but it's into the first row beyond the netting. Full count.
It's funny how when a high pop-up goes into the stands, a lot of people are trying to get out of the way on the first, but when it hits and bounces, then it looks like a free-for-all jump ball.
Oh yeah. Nice play down there by a young man.
One-handed catch.
Very nice. I mean, he tracked that thing all the way. Never put up a second hand. Three-two again. Garrett. He got help right there by Plouffe. That was ball 4.
Just seems like Plouffe's having a hard time catching up with the fastball. When you foul the ball straight back like this, you're just a tick behind.
Boy, you just get the feeling that Garrett really needs this out right here and right now, because this has been a long inning. And if he were to walk a third batter and now have to get locked in for the next guy, this inning has not gone well for Garrett, who's walked 2, allowed a couple of hits, and 3 runs after his team gave him a 2-0 advantage. 9th pitch in this at bat coming up. And there'll be a 10th. I'm sure when you hear this song, Staying Alive, Chris, you harken back to your days at the University of South Florida. That was about the time you were down here, wasn't it?
Down to the days of Dr.
Saturday Night Fever?
Yeah, sure was. Good old days.
That is a third walk in the inning given up by Garrett.
And this is the type of inning that can just sap your energy, your mental energy, physical, yes, but mostly you're out there. Amir Garrett is mentally tired right now.
Boy.
I mean, you're over 30 pitches in this inning. You've walked a few. You're not really getting hit all over the ballpark. You're getting a couple of base hits that just find the holes. And you're trying to make perfect pitches to get out of it. You don't need to do that. Just keep the ball down and throw strikes.
Well, it's got to be so frustrating for Brian Price and Mack Jenkins. I mean, look, it's one thing to say, you know, we're going to give a bunch of young pitchers a chance, and then it's another thing to give a young pitchers a chance, because you have to sit there and watch it and try to grow with them and be patient with them. But and when you're walking 3 guys in an inning, it's got to be certainly a great tester of that patience. 0-2. Luis Alberto Bonilla, who was part of the Red starting rotation for a few weeks earlier this season, just brought back up from the minor leagues, will begin to throw in the bullpen. He went around and out of the inning. So the Rays get 3. Couple of hits leave a pair. Tampa Bay in front by a run.
Starting your Cincinnati Reds for the 2017 All-Star Game with the Esurance MLB All-Star Game ballot. Vote at Reds.com/vote and catch all the excitement of the 88th MLB All-Star Game presented by MasterCard July 11th live on the Big Fox. Zach Kozar continues to lead at shortstop. Joey Votto 5th at first base. Adam Duvall and Billy Hamilton both in the top 15 in the outfield. The voting goes through June 29th. So get online and vote for your Cincinnati Reds. And there might be, yes indeed, a donkey in the future.
Well, sure looks that way right now with Zach Kozar leading the voting at shortstop. Reds got a little work to do. They gave up a 3 spot in the bottom of the 3rd and now trail the Rays by 1. Tucker Barnhart leads it off for the Reds. Barnhart will take a first pitch ball. Good to see old friends when they come
man,
into
I
town.
tell you, I'm just so thrilled to see, and I mentioned his name earlier, Tim Ferguson. He lived a few blocks away, and just the nicest family in the world. He is just a sweetheart of a guy, and haven't seen each other since probably a year or two after, I don't know, right around college, though. It's been a good 25 plus years since I've had a chance to see him. It's a little depressing, though. He doesn't look a day older, and I look every bit of the 30 years older. He looks great. Some of our high school buddies aren't going to believe I saw him down here tonight. He's got a son playing football at the University of Florida. Wow. Got a daughter here in high school, an outstanding volleyball player, and just a super guy. To his right is Featherston, and that's out number 1 as we begin the 4th inning. Reds down a run.
Reds could use a little bit of a longer inning, if for no other reason to give Amir Garrett just a little bit of rest. He had 37 pitches in that bottom of the 2nd inning, or bottom of the 3rd inning. So you just try to get a few extra moments maybe to regroup in there.
Ooh, that was very, very close. Foul ball. Says Tom Hallion, who worked behind the plate last night. Nice to see he's doing all right. He took that foul ball right off the left shoulder last night. They weren't paying any attention down there in that section, whatever it is. Looks like a bunch of picnic tables. That thing came screaming through there off the bullpen mound. Look at that. Nobody even looking. Almost hit that young lady right in the mug. There's a bouncer down to 3rd. Barehanded Longoria. And Peraza able to leg it out, an infield hit.
Second slow roller right in front of Longoria, where we've seen him barehand the ball, make a good play, but not in time. Both runners he tries it on, though, very quick. Schebler outran the play earlier, and Peraza really gets down the line.
I think the Rays might be debating. Home plate umpire saying, all right, come on, let's make a decision here. This is ridiculous.
Well, there really ought to be, at this point, there ought to be a clock that starts immediately. Now they're going to ask for a review, but there ought to be a clock. Because if Major League Baseball says you have 30 seconds to make a decision, that ought to be 30 seconds. And if the flag is not thrown by 30 seconds, then too bad.
So they will take a look at it.
I'm not even going to speculate.
Nope.
You got to remember what the first base umpire does when he makes a play like that. He does it more with his ears than he does with his eyes. He'll listen for the foot hitting the bag and the ball in the glove. But the way the rule is written, it's not when the ball is in the back of the glove anymore. It's when it hits any part of that glove. The same way it is for when it hits any part of a glove on a batter or a runner tagging up on a play.
Well, with the caveat being, of course, now, just so fans at home understand that if the ball does make contact with a glove, but now there's some bobbling involved, they're not going to obviously call the guy out. That would be something that the umpire would have to see and be aware of right away. Has to be a clean catch.
Play at first base.
Yeah. Right.
On a tag-up play, though, they'll measure it from the time it hits the glove, because you can't have an outfielder bobbling the ball all the way back into the infield.
Right. Taking a long time to make this decision. Safe is a call at first base, so the call stands on the field. Infield hit for Jose Peraza. So now Billy Hamilton for the third time. Billy is struck out and flied out to left field. Peraza, 14 stolen bases. He's been on that number for quite a while. And he's in there in time. That is his first stolen base this month.
Well, he's just not been as aggressive, I think, this year as last year. We expected to be, a 1-2 in the lineup. Billy Hamilton and Peraza running wild on the bases all the time. We haven't seen it. Hamilton has not been getting on, and Peraza, when he has been getting on, not been running. Peraza's on base percentage is at .285. It was .352 last year. So there's the difference in the number of times that he's able to get on base.
That's a tying run out there. And now Peraza will advance on to third. I'm not sure what happened there. That was a straight whiff, and that would normally tell you there was a cross up.
Well, when you get a runner at second base, you remember that you go to different sides, and I'm telling you what, Sucre is looking for a breaking ball, and he gets fastball. They're going to give him a pass ball. That's another little bit of scoring injustice.
All right, so now the Rays are going to bring the infield in. That's a tying run. Peraza, who had an infield hit, stole second, goes to third on the pass ball, and Hamilton now a chance to knot it up. Boy, he took a fastball right down the can on a 1-1 count. We talk about on base percentage. Hamilton, his on base percentage is now hovering above .290.
So both the guys they expected to be at the top of the order are .290 or less on the on base percentage end. That's why Peraza's ninth tonight.
And a foul ball. Runners out by 25 feet. 2 outs in the inning.
Well, the infield's in. So you know if there's a ground ball and it doesn't go through, that the infield, when he does catch it, the infielder's got a really good play on you at home plate. Yet the Reds decided to go on the contact play. So I would imagine now that you're going to see Billy Hamilton be aggressive out there. First time he's been on tonight.
Not running on the first pitch. Breaking ball near strike one is Scooter Gennett, who's drawn a walk and grounded out to the first baseman. Billy, the major league leader, 29 stolen bases. He's been thrown out 5 times. Very close. And Cobb is upset, boy. He's screaming at the first base umpire. The umpire's in a great position. Now, whether or not you agree with the call, but he's in a good spot.
Yeah, he is. Not happy. What he really ought to be is not happy with some of his fielders tonight, not the umpire at first base.
Well, you said that Amir Garrett needed a long inning after a lengthy bottom of the third. Well, it's been every bit of that here in the top of the fourth. Hamilton takes off and no chance to throw him out. Billy getting number 30, and he might be shaken up. Wonder if his head went right into the knee of the second baseman.
He's holding his shoulder, or is he holding his head? Or the dangers of sliding head first.
Yeah, it looked like the side of his face, side of his head went right into the knee. And that's a pretty thick knee out there at second base by Featherston. Take a look at this, left side. Pow. Now Gennett, boy, he's been money in these situations with runners in scoring position, to say the least. 1 ball, 1 strike, and a fly ball into right. This will end the inning. Reds miss a scoring chance. They trail by a run. together. And by your local Ford dealer, Ford. Go further. Beautiful pictures as we send out a special hello, as we do every night, to those watching over at Cincinnati Children's. Hoping you had a great day today, a better one tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, our newest edition of Reds Weekly, Pete Rose goes red to bronze. His statue unveiled over the weekend at Great American Ballpark. Joey Votto talks about buying that donkey if Zach Cozart ends up in the All-Star game. And what does the future hold for Bronson Arroyo? Reds Weekly tomorrow, 6 p.m. on Fox Sports Ohio and streaming on Fox Sports Go. A lot of Reds fans here tonight. They enjoyed it last night. Reds ending that lengthy losing streak. And coming away with the 7-3 win. Lorenzen getting the victory. Alvarado the loss. And Iglesias got the final 3 outs. No save for Rysel. Reds had a 2-0 lead in this one. But then wildness for Amir Garrett. He walked the leadoff man in the third. Walked the third batter in the inning. Gave up a couple of hits, and it turned into a 3-run Tampa Bay third. Here's Borges. You know what's happening? The Cubbies and the Padres, they had a tight one last night. Jeff Piccolo standing by. 2-2 to count on Peter Borges. Strike 3 called. Second strikeout of the night for Amir, both tonight. And let's check in back in Cincinnati with Jeff Piccolo. It really is. We were talking about that a minute ago. Thanks, Pick. It's great stuff. It's actually the third strikeout now by Amir Garrett. Struck out the final batter, Robertson, ending the third inning. Featherston walked and scored in the third. Boy, this is so perplexing with Garrett. Now, we did not see him, of course, until this year. But when you saw him early in the year, and you know, look, we said at the time when he got off to a fabulous start, and there were people who already were writing great pitcher as Amir Garrett. Well, we're all hoping that's what happens for Amir Garrett, but as a young pitcher, you're going to have your highs and your lows. But what's very odd here is you're getting down to the 8th place hitter in the lineup, and now for a second straight time, you're giving this guy a free pass on 5 pitches or less.
Well, I think he's just tired, Tom, and he's trying to find his rhythm. He hasn't been able to do that. I don't know what his work between starts has been as far as whether he's trying to find that rhythm. But, I mean, you know, you're going to get this with young pitchers.
I think what most fans wonder about at home, Chris, when you start talking about and we start talking about, but you especially, because, you know, you pitched in the major leagues, you've worked with young pitchers, you talk to pitchers. And knowing where we've seen so many examples where experience seems to mean a lot, And yet there are just as many examples where experience doesn't seem to mean much at all. Why would a young pitcher have a hard time throwing strikes?
Because he doesn't know his delivery like an older pitcher. He hasn't had the repetitions. He hasn't had the repetitions under stress. And especially Amir Garrett, who is young by pitching years, because he really didn't pitch a lot as a kid. A lot of pitchers that get to the major leagues, they started pitching when they were 8 years old. Well, Amir didn't pitch until he was a teenager. And even then, he was more dedicated to basketball than he was to baseball. So it's going to take him a little bit longer. But you got to ask yourself, I mean, if you're here to win games, you need to have somebody up in the bullpen. Because if you walk a guy with 1 out and then you go 3-0 on the next hitter, and you're clearly bothered by the guy at first, he had 37 pitches the inning before, this can unravel in a hurry. But if you're here to develop young pitchers, then you let Amir Garrett work himself out of this inning and maybe go another inning.
Re-enter the count. Jesus.
This is the conundrum. It's really the conundrum that Brian Price finds himself in with this ball club. You know, you lose 9 games in a row. You feel great last night after you win a ball game. You want to go out and you want to win every game when you're managing a ball club. But at the same time, you know that you're running out of a rookie pitcher that needs to pitch at the big league level in order to get better.
That ball clobbered down the line, and it is gone over that short fence in the corner. That makes it 5-2 Rays. And now Mack Jenkins picks up that phone for the bullpen. Save and a beauty by Garrett, and that's a second out of the inning.
I think it was really knocked down by his glove arm. Maybe he got his glove on, and hopefully he did. And everybody who came into the infield is now going back to their position. He's had a few of those come back at him. I mean, not just tonight, but you know, over the course of his very short major league career.
Bonilla for the second time up and throwing in the Reds bullpen. You saw Mack Jenkins there a moment ago on the phone to the bullpen. That ball hit a long way into left center field, and this thing is getting ugly. What a year Dickerson is having. That was his 16th home run of this season.
I'll tell you, with the way the baseballs are now, look where that pitch is. I mean, that is almost around the ankles. And he golfs it out of here going the other way. The balls are wound tight. They're going farther than they've ever gone before. And no longer is left field a safe zone for a pitcher trying to keep the ball in the ballpark. Or I should say opposite field, a safe zone.
Another very rough start for Amir Garrett. Ever since the Reds sent him down when they did, this has not been the same young man we saw start this season. 6 runs in 3 2/3. Our Skyline Chili call to the bullpen. Bonilla will take over. Batting here in the bottom of the 4th, and the night is over for Amir Garrett. Here's Bonilla. So Bonilla pitch a couple of nice games as part of the Reds rotation, including that complete game. A 3-1 loss, you may remember, out in San Francisco on that Saturday afternoon when they first brought him up. Bonilla was recently sent back down and then brought back up prior to the game yesterday. Reds have been making a flurry of roster moves here over the last 48 hours. What with players going on the disabled list, a long throw by Peraza, and it's in time to end the inning. So Bonilla gets a final out. A pair of home runs in the inning, and the Rays in front 6-2. $9 a month with the Reds' top 6 ballpark pass. So tickets are delivered right to your mobile device, and the pass automatically renews each month, so you never miss a game if you don't want to. It's a great idea. Learn more at Reds.com/top6. You know, while we have a moment, we'd like to sneak in a few birthday wishes tonight. These are big ones. Vincent Lambers of Delhi Township out on the west side, celebrating his 92nd birthday today. Vincent Lambers of Delhi. Happy birthday to you. And then coming up tomorrow in Jackson, Ohio. That's right along the Governor James Rhodes Highway, Route 32. You'll pass a sign for Jackson, Ohio. And that is where Ruth McKinney lives. Ruth McKinney of Jackson, Ohio, tomorrow will turn 89. And when I've just been handed one more, as Votto was a fly ball in the center. Dwight Drummond of Wilmington, just north of Cincinnati, celebrating a 90th birthday today. So, Vincent, Ruth, Dwight, happy birthday, and many more to come.
Indeed.
It's good stuff. Jackson, Ohio. That's the speeding ticket capital of the world.
Except for
when
Tom
you're on
Brenneman?
32. That's for anybody, brother. You better find those brakes on Route 32 when you start seeing Jackson, Ohio. I broke down there one time a long time ago. It was not good. Very late at night.
Not a lot going on.
Had to hitchhike back to Athens. Those were the days.
Boy.
Talking about that with somebody the other day. You never see that anymore. That was a regular occurrence a long time ago. That's a second out of the inning. Maybe not a smart decision, but you probably hitchhiked before in your life, haven't you?
Oh, I used to hitchhike home from St. X every night.
Yeah.
Every night.
I used to do it my first job over to Heritage over there by Newtown.
Third baseman, Eugenio Suarez.
And then when you're washing dishes all night or bussing tables, and somebody's kind enough to pull over, and then they get a whiff of you when you jump in that car, and they say, "Why don't you catch the next guy?" And there's a strike. Long way to go in this one. We're just in the top of the fifth. Reds are down by 4, and we've seen this Reds team come back so many times already this year. Started 2. Did he go around on the appeal? No. And it's 2 balls and 2 strikes on Suarez. Foul, and Suarez checking that bat. He may have cracked that thing. Yep, looked like he did. 2 on Suarez, and Cobb pulls that left leg in the air and delivers on a 2-hopper to Longoria. High throw, and the runner is out. Reds are gone in order and trail 6-2. Fireworks Friday. We have them all summer. Next one's coming up June 30th. Reds will take on the Cubs. You can be there as low as $12. We'll have the big post-game fireworks show presented by Cooper Tire. That'll be a fun Friday night, June 30th. That's a week from this Friday. Reds still have tomorrow here, off day Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Washington, D.C. against the Nationals, and then a Monday makeup game in St. Louis. That'll be an afternoon tilt. Luis Alberto Bonilla picked up the final out in the 4th inning in relief of Garrett, and I would imagine we'll see him out there for a while tonight.
Well, it's only a 4-run ball game. I mean, the way the Reds have had a habit of being able to come back, I think you use whoever you need to try to get a win on the board.
You know, the Reds have to be, I'm not going to say the word is perplexed, because as we started to talk a little bit about, you know, earlier, Brian Price knew, and Mack Jenkins, his right-hand man, the pitching coach and the guy responsible for so many of these young pitchers, or at least, you know, trying to work with them and Ted Power down in the bullpen. But you know, the door being wide open as it was in spring training after injuries to Homer Bailey and Anthony DeSclafani, the top 2 pitchers in the Reds starting rotation. And then within the first 2.5 weeks of the season, Brandon Finnegan goes down. We've not seen him since. So many of these young Reds pitchers are getting a golden opportunity. And outside of, you know, the month of April and the first 2 starts of May, the 10th of May is a long time ago now. And you think about the laundry list of these young prospects the Reds have brought to the big leagues, and you know, they're obviously not going to be anywhere close to giving up on them. For a lot of them, they're making their major league debut this year. You know, a guy like Cody Reed had, what, 10 starts a season ago. We've seen Stevenson start here, start there last year. Not made a start for the big league club this year, but no, Kristen, when do you really want to start seeing some of these guys start delivering on some of this promise?
Well, I think that's a really great question, because I had a front office operative tell me this spring in spring training that the Reds have never had more depth when it comes to young pitching. And of course, that was a good year to have that because they've had so many injuries. I don't think that hit the roof, but it came close. But there's a major transition, and this is where it fools ball clubs and front office people and managers every year in spring training. You go to spring training, whether it's in Florida or Arizona, and a kid goes out and he runs out 12 good innings in exhibition games, and you think, hey, he's the next best thing, and he's ready for the major leagues. And all of a sudden, you're facing a lineup of big leaguers during the regular season, and now they're grinding out at bats instead of working on stuff. And you don't see AA players coming in the fourth inning anymore. And now it gets tougher. The strike zone's smaller, and kid loses his confidence. He doesn't really have a good feel for things anymore, and all of a sudden he's reverting back. And this is what's happened with a number of the Reds pitchers that they have brought up here. They simply were not ready to be in the major leagues.
But then we get into that whole debate, Chris, about, you know, Cody Reed. What would make wouldn't have to be somebody that's seeing him regularly to probably say, you know what, his numbers look good, but he's probably not ready. Because let's be honest about it. Cody Reed had numbers at AAA that warranted a chance with a big league club, especially a team trying to rebuild, right?
How do you make the transition? How do you make the transition? You have to ask yourself, how many of these young pitchers have gotten better? You measure them month by month, or you measure them start by start. You know, maybe that's too small of a sample, but I mean, you want to see a little bit of improvement, and you got to ask yourself, how many of them have gotten better, and how many are on their way to getting better? And that's the way you judge your organization overall. I think the Reds have excellent pitching coaches down in the minor leagues, and these guys are putting in the time, and they have good ideas, and they've got experience down there. But I think they've got some interesting decisions to make about the starting rotation. And you and I happen to agree on a couple of points where there may be guys who are down in the bullpen right now who are good starting candidates that are probably not under consideration for one reason or another to become starters, because there's a variance of opinion.
The base hit into center field. And, you know, the other part of this whole thing, and hustling all the way, was Robertson, and he turns that into a hustling double. Let's go back and see what happened here.
Robertson's a young player. I'll tell you what, you know, this is what you love to see out of a young player. He hits a ball that goes right by Peraza. Nice attempt by Peraza. Billy Hamilton picks it up, and he gets it back in, you know, in a reasonable amount of time. I think Robertson was just taking a chance that he was not going to be able to throw the ball on the money. I think that's more credit to Robertson than you know, bad play by anybody on the Reds defense.
I think some fans would like to hear some more of your comments about this whole kind of thing, and I know you don't have a crystal ball, and furthermore, as I say all the time, I don't want anybody to think that, you know, that Chris or I or anybody sitting up there in the booth has any information, you know, inside information on what might or might not happen. We don't get that information.
Well, we don't get the information, and we don't get asked.
No, and which we shouldn't. So,
no, absolutely.
But when you say,
but we have ideas because we watch this ball club every day, and we see these players play, and we have some ideas on what we think should be under consideration. And it doesn't. I mean, no, I don't think anybody in the front office ever agrees on everything. But you know, if one thing that would seem reasonable to me is you line up all your starting pitching prospects, and you line them all up, and you say, who are our best 5 starters right here? Who are our best 7 starters? Who are our best 8 starters? And you concentrate on those guys, because I think the fans want to start seeing some improvement. Because this is a pretty good lineup that you're running out there every day. They're scoring some runs. And when you get Homer Bailey back, and when you get Finnegan back, and the rotation begins to settle down a little bit, hopefully a guy like Garrett will get better throughout the year. That's what you hope out of a young pitcher. And maybe there's somebody down the bullpen who maybe punched into the starting rotation. All of a sudden you have the semblance of a decent starting rotation, and this team can learn how to win a little bit. And I think that's the direction that you want your organization to go. You've got to put the W's on the board eventually. Because if you don't, you're going to be rebuilding forever.
Well, the Reds are counting on, though, this stable of young pitchers to help this rebound, help rebuild, get turned around right quick. There's one of the guys that you and I, without openly politicking for it, would at least ask the question. If you've got a bunch of guys 24, 25 years old or younger, and you're going to rank them 1 through 5 or 1 through 7, as you just suggested, should Lorenzen be a legitimate candidate of that group? Or is he penalized because right now he happens to be pitching out of the bullpen?
Well, I mean, that's one of the decisions that the organization has to make. Where is he best suited? Can his arm withstand the rigors of pitching 200 innings? That's the question you have to ask. Does his stuff translate to be a starter? Does he have the mental approach to be a starter, or is he better at the end of a game? But he would be certainly under consideration, I would think, one of the guys. I think a few years ago they had a really good starter in Tony Cingrani for a while, showed flashes. He's a guy that I'd have to take a look at, saying, well, what is his role here? Get a little yoga done down there. But I think that everything, it has been so wide open, the starting rotation so far this year, that anything's on the table. And why not?
Well, especially when nobody has shown you outside of Adelman that they're ready to take the bull by the proverbial horns and get going. Yeah. As a young pitcher.
Moment later in the game, brought to you by Miller Lite. You gentlemen have been talking about those Tampa Bay ties for the Reds, and so many Reds fans here in this area, and it is passed down from generations. For a long time, they called Tampa home. In fact, the spring training site for the Reds, look at the years. 1931 to 42, and then 1946 clear up to 1987, and most famously the Big Red Machine trained here in Tampa. And I talked to a lot of fans, some grandfathers and grandkids who are now Reds fans who grew to watch the Reds every spring training, and so many great players came through here. Now this Tampa Bay area battles the New York Yankees for supremacy as the Yankees train in Tampa. But for so long, this was Reds country.
Well, I had a chance to be a bat boy for a number of those Reds teams in spring training at Al Lopez Field, which was right next door to what they used to refer to as the Great Sombrero. That was when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers franchise started down here, and the Tampa Bay Rowdy soccer team played in there. And Al Lopez Field was right next door on the same side of the street. And then all the Reds playing fields were connected straight down that same road. And then when the Yankees came a-calling, they kept some of those playing fields. Al Lopez Stadium was torn down, and the Yankees built a brand new stadium on the other side of the street. And it is one of the great spring training ballparks in either Florida or Arizona. But Tampa was a great spot for the Reds. Perfect spot. I mean, you talk about travel easy in and easy out. Those were the days where, you know, you could jump in the car, get down here in a decent amount of time. There were nonstop flights coming down here all the time into Tampa from Cincinnati. One away here in the Reds' 6th inning, and the Rays a 6-2 lead. Mesoraco in there with a 1-2 count. Ball and 2 strikes, a count on Mesoraco, and a long look in by Cobb, and now going to work. Three balls, 2 strikes on Mesoraco. Struck him out.
Well, that's a split finger pitch that Cobb is using effectively tonight, but he's not using it as much as he used to. I mean, it just goes to show you, Tommy. I mean, here's a perfect example of a major leaguer that is pretty good when he is healthy. But his fastball is only around 91 miles an hour. It's really the other stuff that's getting these hitters out. It is so hard to throw a fastball by these guys nowadays. Chase a splitter down in the dirt.
There's that first pitch breaking ball we talked about before this game ever started. In there to Barnhart.
You know, not everybody has the ability to develop a breaking ball like Alex Cobb, but that should be your goal as an organization, to have your guys who are throwing hard or who at least have good deliveries to start getting their secondary pitches down so that they can throw them all the time for strikes. Because as the average velocity of pitching goes up, the ability of the hitters to hit that faster pitching goes up with it. So 94 nowadays is hitting speed, and 95 is hitting speed, and even 96 if it's right down the middle. But if you mix in a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then you save a fastball, now you've got something.
That ball stung into left field, and it will bounce off the glove of Dickerson out there. And Barnhart coasting into second base.
Hey, Barnhart very quietly has been hitting the ball very hard lately. I mean, right on the button. Had a base hit his first time up, had a nice play, but hit hard his second time up. Grounded out to the second baseman, and this hits this ball opposite field almost all the way to the wall. I think they were playing him rather shallow because I don't think they respected his opposite field power. Boy, he's seen a bundle of those tonight as Alex Cobb.
So now a scoring chance for the Reds. Here's Peraza. He had an RBI single in the second inning. That came with 2 outs to get the Reds out in front 1-0. And then Peraza had an infield hit. Wound up stealing second, going to third on a wild pitch that was in the 4th inning. That's when the Reds had a chance to tie the game at 3 apiece, but Billy Hamilton hit a ground ball right at the shortstop, and with the infield drawn in, Peraza was cut down at home. Ball and 1 strike to count on Peraza. Barnhart a good lead out there at second base. Bottom fell out of that.
Both the hits that Peraza has tonight against Alex Cobb have come on a fastball. So now you see him take a swing like that on a breaking ball. I doubt that Cobb is going to give him another fastball for a strike in this at bat.
I got to tell you, I am just dumbfounded. We never see, obviously, these American League teams play. I cannot believe this is not called a balk.
Yeah.
This is the most gross violation of a balk that I have seen by a pitcher in I don't know how long, and I cannot believe they don't call this a balk.
Well, there are a couple of others that are very close.
Yeah, but
including one on the Reds. And basically what you're saying is that when he comes set again and then again.
Absolutely. It's 3 times.
Yeah. Well, you know, over the last few years, Major League Baseball has been trying to tighten up the official rules book. And that's probably something they ought to take a look at.
I just don't ever get a chance to see this guy pitch. I mean, there's one.
That should be
pause.
the stop
There's
right there.
2.
That's another one.
Pause. I mean, if that is not deception, I don't know what is. And isn't that the key word in the whole thing?
It sure is.
In the rule itself. Well, we talked about Charlie Rutherford last night. This is his turf. He sort of runs 4 different cities, much like our buddy Randy Marsh does in Cincinnati, and oversees, you know, some other cities.
Well, Randy, I think, oversees everybody.
Yes.
And he reports right to Joe Torre. Umpires are being scrutinized every night.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of thing that is interpreted at the top level, not by the umpires that are on the field tonight. I mean, if all of a sudden Phil Cuzzy starts calling balks on Alex Cobb right here in this inning, I mean, the Rays will go nuts.
Oh no, that's the kind of thing. You're right. I mean, you'd have to go to Alex Cobb during spring training. You'd have to sit down with the Tampa Bay manager and the pitching coach Jim Hickey and write on down and say, now look. And they do that all the time when they have different rules or points of emphasis or whatever it is. They'll have a representative that will come and sit down with an entire team and explain some changes in the rule book.
Well, they did that this year with a rule they call the Carter Capps rule.
Yeah. Fly ball to left field. This will back up Dickerson, and the inning is over. 1 hit, 1 left. We are in the 6th, and the Rays with a 6-2 lead. Thursday night at 7. Gabriela Cruz and Jensen Lewis at El Dorado Scioto Downs in Columbus. Beer Money can be seen right here on Fox Sports Ohio, streaming live on Fox Sports Go. It's a fun show to watch if you just got time to hang out and check it out. A lot of good questions in there. It's good to see Jensen doing so well.
Yeah.
Cincinnati kid, pitched in the major leagues for a long time and now part of the regular sort of Fox Sports Ohio family.
Good man.
Yes, he is. Luis Alberto Bonilla set to begin his second inning of work. He got the final out in relief of Garrett in the 4th, allowed a 2-out double in the 5th, and here we go in the 6th. 6 runs, 6 hits, Tampa Bay. 2 runs, 8 hits for the Reds. Tony Cingrani beginning to lightly play catch down there in the Reds bullpen. Pretty good breaking ball right there by Bonilla. Featherston, the beneficiary of the wildness from Garrett tonight. Garrett walked 4 batters, and the 4 walks came in 1 inning and 2 batters of the next inning. That is a fair ball into the corner. And Featherston will pull the shoot with a leadoff double.
Pretty good pitch right there to give up a double on. Bonilla's thinking the same thing here. Breaking ball, well, it just kind of hangs on the inner part of the plate there. Maybe that's the reason why Featherston was able to keep that thing fair.
Two-0 the count. Dupree homered his last time up. A 2-run home run down the left field line in the corner. That's his 3rd home run this season. The young man is trying to hang on to his life in the big leagues right now. We mentioned the Rays are very close to getting Wilson Ramos back, who will be their regular catcher. Norris has not had a good year. And somebody's got to go when Ramos comes up. Strike 3 called. Good pitch there. All right, game break time. Let's check in with our main man, Jeff Pecoro.
Number 20, Steven Souza Jr.
Well, Judge is the Triple Crown leader right now in the American League. The Yankees have lost 6 in a row, so they're trying to get a win tonight. But Judge, number 1 in batting average, home run, and runs batted in.
I believe he's been invited to participate already in the home run hitting contest during the All-Star game. Be interesting to see if he accepts that invitation.
I would think it's a young player, he would. at least do it one time. It's always been a huge connection between New York and the southeastern side of the Florida coast, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. A lot of New Yorkers have retired there for a long, long time. But there'll be a big push for Judge to give that stern consideration. Swing and a miss, throw down to third, and easily stealing third base is Featherston, but a strike 3 on Souza Jr. So 2 are out in the inning.
Right here, when you're the third baseman, you just want to cover up down there if you're Suarez. Make sure that this throw doesn't go into left field. Makes a nice pick.
That's going to be all for Bonilla. Tony Cingrani's going to come on to face a left-handed batting Dickerson. Bonilla did a nice job here tonight.
Yes, he did.
Gave the Reds 2 innings of 2 hits so far shutout baseball. He struck out 3, and the good news is he did not walk a single batter. We're back in a moment. Third and 2 outs. He'll give way to the left-hander Tony Cingrani. Cingrani a long time on that disabled list. You know, he's only walked 2 in a little more than 9 innings. Tonight his 11th game. Now he has given up 3 home runs in those 9 innings. But opponents batting .243. Very, very small sample size with all the time out for Cingrani. But right there is where he made his living as a starter.
And that's where he needs to stay, and I think he understands that. And, you know, the more he pitches when he's healthy, you're going to see him pitch upstairs.
I mean, that's just a high fastball, 95 miles per hour. Guys think they see it well, and they go hacking.
I just think the experiment to try to teach him a slider and pitch down the zone just was a mistake. And I think that now that he's healthy, I mean, you get 95 with that kind of spin on it up in the zone. I mean, it's hard for anybody to handle. How many times did we see hitters chasing pitches up constantly against Tony Cingrani, and you look at each other and you ask yourself, why would he chase that pitch? Well, it's close to your eyes, and your eyes tell your body that you can see it, and you can hit it. It's a lot harder to hit that one down and away from you. Now he'll chase. You can expand the zone a little bit more here.
You know, Cingrani was doing the same thing, and it's one of the reasons the Reds, along with injuries, of course, got away from Cingrani being used anymore as a starter. Is, you know, he'd get in the fourth inning, fifth inning, have 100 pitches in a game, and you know, it was very, very wild at times. But boy, you know, you look back and you say to yourself, this guy set a major league record his rookie year of the most consecutive starts to begin a major league career of allowing 5 hits or less. This guy had a lot of success. But the Reds felt like he didn't have a secondary pitch. He didn't have a curveball, a changeup, even though he was, you know, pretty regularly, at least that first year before the injuries hit, getting people out.
You know, Cingrani's only 27 years old. I mean, just because he came up and he's been around a while, you automatically think he's on the other side of 30, but nowhere even close to that.
They got it quickly, 0-2 on Dickerson, and now trying to put him away. 6 straight strikes thrown by Cingrani. First pitch out of his zone. Struck him out on that high heat. 6-2 as we go to the 7th.
The Chicago Cubs for only $12. That's right, $12. Don't miss the Central Division Showdown at Great American Ballpark. When the Cubs come to town, for tickets, visit Reds.com.
All right, 6-2 ball game. The Rays tank out there and straightaway center. Got a pretty good seat for each and every one of these home games. Very quiet, I'm sure, when the team is out of town. All right, Cobb still out there on the mound, and the Reds have a top of the order. They're down by 4, batting here in the 7th inning. Cobb ran into 2-out trouble in the 2nd and 3rd innings. He retired the first 2 batters in each of those frames, and he allowed a single to Mesoraco in the 2nd, a single to Barnhart, single to Peraza, giving the Reds a 1-0 lead. Then in the 3rd, retired 2 in a row, and should have been out of the inning on a routine fly ball to left center field out close to the warning track, and the ball dropped right in between the center fielder and the left fielder. Went for a triple by Duvall, and then Suarez took advantage with a base hit to drive in a run. Hamilton on the ground, and Billy 0 for 4 tonight. Billy without a serious hit in either one of the first 2 games of this series so far. Look at those numbers. The last 4 interleague start sets coming into the game tonight for Alex Cobb.
Number 4, Scooter Genetics.
Well, the earned run will go up a little bit because he's given up a couple of runs tonight, but one of those runs really should not have scored at all. The one in the 3rd inning that went for a triple by Duvall simply dropped between 2 outfielders. He's been good. Be interesting to see what the Rays do with him down the road. The Rays are somewhat rebuilding as well, and whether Cobb fits into their long-term plans or not, I'm not so sure. He might be a nice piece of an additional starting pitcher for some other team looking for one more pitcher to make it over the hump at the trading deadline.
Scooter Gennett for 2 has drawn a walk in the game. Yeah, I would think to get anything decent in return for Cobb, who has had a nice career when he's been healthy. We talked about that earlier in the game, but he'd really have to get on a roll for me, a big time roll, knowing his history of injury, to give up anything to go get him. It would have to be a case where more than likely you had a starter get injured or something along those lines.
Well, again, sometimes when you come back from Tommy John surgery, that has a tendency to, if you can overcome the first test, and you're fixed.
Yeah.
And if that has been his problem, that is all in the rearview mirror. He's only 29 years old. He won't be 30 until in the off season. He was one of the original, one of the few Rays here that actually came up through their system. Chosen by the Rays in 2006 in the 3rd round. That was the round the Rays in the 1st round took Evan Longoria. Longoria was the 3rd pick taken overall.
Votto a drive to left field, and there's room out there for the 2nd out. Votto 0 for 4 tonight. First 3 hitters in the lineup are 0 for the night. And really Duvall should be 0 for 3. That's that ball Chris referred to a moment ago. Bottom of the order, you got some guys doing some damage. Barnhart has 2 hits. Peraza has 2 hits. Be the 109th pitch of the night for Cobb. They more than likely will move on to the bullpen if Cobb can get one more out, finishing up 7 strong innings. And they've been good ones. Should be 6 innings of 1-run baseball. You know, the other thing I want to ask you about, Chris, is, and we'll get to this when we come back in the bottom of the 7th inning. Cingrani's going to come back out there. Be curious to hear your thoughts, and I know the fans would as well, about, you know, with all these young pitchers the Reds have in the minor leagues, at least guys that are, you know, written a lot about. They haven't done anything yet at all in the major leagues, whether it's, you know, Stevenson or Cody Reed or Romano or, you know, whomever else you want to bring up. You know, I've read in some circles that you say, get them all up here right now. Get them up here now. But can a manager and a pitching coach, and again, we'll get your comments at the end of the inning. Don't want to get into this too much with 2 outs already and 2 strikes. But can you really bring up 4 or 5 guys? Let's say 4 with Homer Bailey coming back. Let's say 3. Scott Feldman stays around. Can you really bring up 3 young guys who could have regular outings like we've seen from them in the past, or like we've seen from Amir Garrett over the last month and a half? Can you do that 3 days a week? It's not to say you're guaranteed to have those kind of outings, but do you continue to run them out there and take their lumps? We'll hear from Chris Welsh on that topic and more when we come back. They stand and stretch in Tampa Bay.
When baseball's biggest stars take the field for the MLB All-Star Game, July 11th, only on Fox. It's been rainy in the state of Florida, and I feel badly for the Blue Wahoos of Pensacola and their fans. The AA affiliate of the Reds was set to host the AA All-Star Game tonight, but because of inclement weather from Tropical Storm Cindy, that game has been canceled. And they'll have to refund the tickets, etc. A lot of work and planning goes into hosting an All-Star Game at any level, and I just feel badly that Mother Nature had other plans.
Well, you're not lying. That is really a shame. Understand it's just an incredible venue right on the water in Pensacola. There's a fly ball out by Longoria to begin the inning. And you're right, all the hard work so many people put in to prepare to having that kind of event. We know what it means to have an All-Star Game. We had one a couple of years ago in Cincinnati. Cingrani's retired the first 2 batters he's faced. We're in the bottom of the 7th inning and a 6-2 Rays lead.
You know, Tom, you pose an interesting question, and that would be, can you just bring up all the kids at one time and play them? And maybe there's somebody in the Reds front office that thinks that. I doubt that, though. You just can't do that. You have to have a semblance of being able to be competitive in the major leagues, and not everybody who's a prospect is going to be a big league player. I've always said that if you get 10 really good pitching prospects coming out of the upper end of your minor leagues, and if you get 3 of them to be legitimate major league pitchers in the long run, you've done a really good job. So the fallout rate is still 70%. But you just cannot be fooled in the month of March, and you cannot be fooled in the month of September. And you sometimes have to be a little more patient with some than others. And other guys will hit the scene and they'll never look back. Other guys will hit the scene, give you an idea that they're going to be good, be sent down, and never seen again. And you just don't know who they are. It's not an exact science. But the Reds have accumulated a lot of good arms. Now the challenge is to convert those arms into major league pitchers.
Right, but you've heard, though, specifically, though, I mean, we've all heard this, right? I mean, and I'm not just talking about from fans. I mean, there are some very well-schooled, highly respected baseball people that have been around a long time that'll look you right in the eye and they'll say, get them up here right now.
Well, here's why you can't do that. Because you have, I mean, and a lot of people point to the Houston Astros and say, well, look at the Astros. They broke their team down and they started from scratch. Well, they lost 100 games 4 years in a row. The Reds can't do that because they have committed next year $60 million to their payroll already between Joey Votto, Homer Bailey, and Devin Mesoraco.
3 players.
3 players. So you can't just scratch it down to the very base and say we're going to start all over again, not when 60% of your payroll is already accounted for next year, unless you're going to have a major bump up. So you've got to look within. You've got to get some of these young players to move up. Some of the guys that you see on the field right now are going to get some raises next year. Suarez, Peralta, Billy Hamilton, Barnhart, guys like that. Well, Barnhart signed, but so those are the kind of things that are all come into consideration. And I don't know everything about what's going on with the contracts and how much is owed and so on. But, you know, you hope you get Homer Bailey back and that he becomes a really good, solid pitcher again. And you get Finnegan back and you get DeSclafani back. But now you still have a couple of roles to fill. Feldman, he's signed for 1 year. What are you going to do with him next year? He's going to be a free agent. Does he have an option for next year? I don't know. Can he go out on the free agent market and make some more money than the Reds will pay him? Maybe. So the decisions, the tough decisions that are facing the Reds is how to evaluate your own players. What do you really know about the chances of, you know, where's Jesse Winker fit into this thing?
Well, see, that's ultimately what I was getting to, because if there's one pattern that I have seen, and, you know, the execution of the theory is handled many, many different ways. You know, the one thing you don't want to do, I wouldn't think, is begin a season. And let's say the Reds this year, I think it's fair to say when this season started that they wanted to know by the end of this season what kind of future there was out there for Cody Reed, what kind of future was out there for Robert Stevenson, what is the future, and I'm talking about now as a starting pitcher or a big league pitcher. We are almost halfway through this season. And as it pertains to those two pitchers, we don't know the answer to that question. Now, it could be because of injury, it could be for ineffectiveness, it could be multitude of things. But what I'm getting at is ultimately, you don't want to have the same questions in 2018 going into the year that you had going into 2017.
That's a good point.
About so many of your young players.
Well, you certainly don't want to have as many open opportunities as you did this year. That's why between now and the end of the year down in the minor leagues, this is a very important time for them. As it is up here, I think that, you know, you got to get your team to start winning a little bit. But there are some other pitchers down in the minor leagues that I would really like to see. I don't know whether we will.
Well, I would assume one of them would be Mr. Malley.
Malley is one. Castillo is another one.
Castillo is on the 40-man roster as of today. Malley is not.
You know, Jackson Stevens is a guy that's throwing the ball well down in Louisville. You know, I mean, if you're going to give shots to some of the pitchers that you have at the beginning of the year, you know, and you have opportunities going forward, you have to decide how you're going to dole those out. Now, they are going to shrink because Feldman's going to stay in the rotation. Alderman will stay in the rotation. Homer Bailey will be in the rotation. And from there, I don't know. I mean, they still haven't even announced a starter for coming up on Friday. That sounded like a broken glass, but false alarm.
Two and two the count on Plouffe. And now Sangrani's starting to get to a lot of breaking stuff and that sort of thing. And now all of a sudden a lot more balls and strikes.
You've got to keep it simple.
Yep. Base hit into right field.
Chance for Sangrani right here to go right up the ladder on Daniel Robertson. Tall player. Normally those guys are a little more susceptible to pitches that are up.
And there's that high fastball again, and that's where Sangrani gets the out.
Well, you saw where Barnhart was giving the sign right there and giving the target. I mean, he got up on his haunches and put his glove right around shoulder level, and that's exactly where Sangrani puts it.
Go 1-2 pitch. They throw to second base and they get the final out of the inning. How about
Smart
that?
play.
Barnhart's always in the game. Suarez dropping a base hit to make it 2-0 in the third inning. But after that, wildness getting the better part of Garrett. He walked 3 batters in the third inning. Morrison a 2-run single to give him the lead, and then a pair of home runs off Amir in the fourth. Sucre, the catcher, with a man aboard. Then Dickerson, a solo shot. 6-2 ball game as the Reds come to bat here in the 8th inning. Tommy Hunter will come on to pitch. Very good numbers for Hunter. 5 walks in his 18+ innings. Opponents hitting in the 220s against him.
Been around a while, Hunter has. He's now 30 years old. He broke into the big leagues when he was 21. Got 3 starts his first season in 2008 with the Texas Rangers. Been with Baltimore. Pitched 19 games for the Cubs a couple of years ago. Was with the Indians and Baltimore last year, and now this year with the Rays.
Strike 3 called on Suarez to open up the 8th.
Got a tight little slider, I'll tell you that. Suarez may have thought this was outside. And it may have been. Look at the action by Sucre at the very end to kind of frame it back in. But the umpires don't see that, really. You know, you talk about framing. We had a discussion the other day, Tom, and when I talk to umpires about that, they're not looking at the glove. They're watching the ball as it passes over the plate. So I think maybe the whole framing discussion, you know, is probably not as important. How about Freddie Benavides?
Well, he's always been able to pick it.
He can still
rest
pick
assured, Shebra will take a load of heat about that.
Bare hand is best shot.
Right.
Shebra's going back to get a new bat whether he needs one or not.
So you're not so sure about the framing thing. That's become a pretty big hot topic of conversation in your circles the last year or two.
I think it's a product of overanalysis. I really do. Umpires don't like it at all. They don't like to imply that a catcher can influence their call of a ball or a strike. Now, do some catchers catch the ball smoother than others? Absolutely. There are better fielding shortstops. One's better than the other.
Sure.
I mean, it's just the way it goes. And the whole idea of framing is you get your glove to the spot where you anticipate the ball to be before the ball gets there. And then when you catch it, you kind of bring it back towards your body, whatever part of the plate it's on.
Back-to-back strikeouts for Hunter. I just, you know, the one part of that whole thing that for the life of me, I mean, I know there's a formula to it, but I mean, I don't know how all of a sudden you can say that Yasmani Grandal, and not only bring him up because we just saw him, we're reading in preparation of the series, that, you know, last year, because of his framing, he allegedly saved 29 runs.
Yeah,
I don't get that.
I don't get it either. Sounds like something his agent came up with.
Well, I guarantee you there's somebody throwing something at the television saying, I can tell you exactly how we came up with that. And you know what? I'd love to hear it.
I'm open.
Totally. I mean, if you're going to say that you know, well, he was able to frame this pitch, which led to an out rather than a walk, and then the next guy got a hit. And okay, well, there was a run because he framed it. You know, it really wasn't a strike, but the guy didn't get on. It was ball 4.
Well, did he frame it or did the umpire just miss it?
Precisely. You know, that's something you and I were starting to talk a little bit about yesterday, that excellent article that was written by Tim Kirchin about what baseball will look like in 20 years from now. And, you know, do you think we're going to get to the point one day where a computer will call the balls and strikes?
I think so.
You do?
Yeah.
But maybe not the outs on the bases.
Probably not. Yeah, I think one way you could speed the game up is you bring back the bullpen cars.
Love the bullpen cars.
That may not work here because the bullpens are on the field. But I mean, when they're way out there in center field, you bring a car out or a golf cart, bring it on in.
Yeah, but they were cool. I mean, you know, certain teams had them where they were sweet. They had the hat on the top. Those things were awesome.
I was in the Yankees. They had one. The Yankees had evidently a sponsorship with Toyota. So they had a Toyota with the pinstripes and everything on it, with a Yankee cap on it. And I got called into the game one day, and I didn't know anything about this car. So I start running in. Car pulls up next to me. Window goes down. Says, "Get in the car." I look out and said, "No, I'll run in." And I looked in, and he was kind of a guy who maybe came from the set of Sopranos. He says, "Get in the car." He dropped me off. I was a little shaken. Promptly gave up a grand slam.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, Don Baylor. You can look it up. Get in the car.
That would shake anybody up. You kidding me? Quite a battle going on here with Mesoraco. Now, they wouldn't drive that car, though, because that was a natural grass field in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, they drove right over the grass.
Come on.
No, you know what? They didn't. You're right. They drove it down.
On the warning track.
On the warning track along, and they dropped you off by the dugout. That was what it was.
Of course, Mariano Rivera, they would have brought him in on a drone had they figured that out. Mesoraco lines one into left, and that's up against the wall. So Devin hustling in with a 2-out double here in the 8th.
Number 16, Tucker Barnes.
Hit that ball well. I thought Dickerson, the way he went back on that ball, was going to have a chance to catch it. Reds have now out-hit the Rays. Still down by 4.
Reds Live brought to you by Performance Kings Honda. Comes your way after each and every Reds game, and we'll have it for you tonight. The liner into center, and that will get by the center fielder and go to the wall. And Tucker Barnhart is on his way to third. He is not even going to think about it. No chance. No chance. But you'll take the RBI triple. And you were talking about Tucker earlier. He continues to hit the ball very hard, and the Reds are within 3 runs.
Yeah, he is swinging the bat extremely well. I mean, hitting line drives all over the place is Barnhart. Borges comes in and tries to make the catch. I'll tell you, he's having a rough night. You know, they've talked about how defensively challenged their outfield is. I mean, we've already seen some major errors out there tonight. Even the ball that Mesoraco hit, I thought Dickerson had a chance to catch, and he backed up, and the ball just hit right at the base of the wall. That ball should have been caught. It wasn't even on the ground when Borges overplayed it. This is when the pitching coach comes in and says, hey, we're not going to make a pitching change here. If I was running this club, we'd make an outfield change. But I'm only the pitching coach, so hang in there.
Well, you know, they said the same thing about the young center fielder Malik Smith last night, who is very speedy, very fast, very athletic, but they said he is not a good outfielder in the least bit.
Well, we've seen Borges play a lot. I mean, he was with the Cardinals for a while. He always played good defense. Just misplayed that ball.
Boy, and he had the misplay out there in left center with Dickerson earlier in the game, which led to a run. Cutting it loose, the shortstop just in time to get the hustling Peraza. Reds get a run back. But they trail by 3 as the Rays come to bat in the bottom of the 8th inning. The Reds action 30 minutes before the start of every game on Fox Sports Ohio. It's brought to you by Ray St. Clair Roofing. No TV tomorrow. The next time we'll get together will be on Friday night in the nation's capital. Ariel Hernandez will take over on the mound. Chris, this guy was very impressive when they brought him up earlier this year.
Well, when he came up earlier this year, he caught everybody by storm. He came up and he pitched against the Brewers. He struck out 5. And, I mean, he was dealing. Had a hard slider, went back down to the minor leagues shortly after that. Actually went all the way down back to Double-A. He was the only player this year that the Reds have brought up directly from Double-A. In fact, I can't remember over the last few years if there have been all that very many players that the Reds have brought up from Double-A. Got a live arm, we know that.
There's a fly ball into left field, and that's out number 1. Borges retired by Hernandez to start the inning. Take a look at the numbers for Hernandez at Double-A. Very, very good. You know, the only area right there that kind of stands out would certainly be the 20 walks in the 33 innings. That's too many. But averaging more than a strikeout per inning, and you can see when this guy throws strikes, he's very tough to hit. He's not giving up a home run. And opponents are batting in the 160s against Ariel Hernandez. And there is some life on that fastball. 19-9.
Hernandez was originally signed by the Giants as a free agent. He's out of the Dominican Republic. Then 7 years later, he was released by the Giants and signed in 2015 in May by the Diamondbacks. Reds got him a couple of years ago in the Rule 5 draft. I would presume that is in the minor league portion of the Rule 5 draft. Reds liked his arm. Only 25 years old.
Well, look at that movement on that slider. Mercy. How about that?
Now, the walk issue, though, is something that's been with him his entire career. So he's got great stuff, and you say, well, look at the breaking pitch and look at the fastball and the life. But he's averaging, you know, this year 5.5 walks per 9 innings.
Yep.
And that's one of his better years.
Well, he just came up and retired the side in order.
And maybe at 25 years old, he's just beginning to get it. You never know.
Like CIN AT.
Authority of the Cincinnati Reds. It may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cincinnati Reds.
Well, as promised earlier in the game, our Miller Time moment brought to you by Miller Lite. Lou Pinella, of course, manager of the Cincinnati Reds, won the World Series in 1990. He is a Tampa native. Who could ever forget that night against the Cubs when he threw it not once but twice. But of course, he was also manager of these Tampa Bay Rays.
Well, he was trying out for the Buccaneers right here. They were looking for an extra field goal kicker, and maybe not, Lou.
There he's hanging out tonight, watching the club that he now works for again, the Cincinnati Reds, with another Reds employee, former player Miguel Cairo.
Cairo was so excited about being able to spend 2 nights sitting next to Lou and picking his brain about the game of baseball. Miguel lives in the area. I think he lives in Tampa. Brought his son to the ball game today. And he's one of the roving instructors that the Reds have, and he was telling me how he's going to be off on the road here pretty soon. Good man, Miguel Cairo. Very knowledgeable. Boy, he's played for some pretty good managers along the way.
Yes, he has.
Well, he's played for Tony La Russa, Joe Torre, Jimmy Leland,
Dusty Baker.
And I'm not sure if he played for Lou when Lou was down here
I think he did.
I'm
quite
Tampa.
sure he did.
And he was talking about contrasting all the different styles, but also what he picked up from each one of them. It was really quite an interesting conversation.
Lou is still so sharp. I mean, he is really, really sharp. You know, there was a while there, and he openly talked about it last night. Chris, you and I were hanging out with him, and he was talking about how big he got when he was manager of the Cubs, and his blood sugar got all out of whack. And you know, he said, and he was the one that said it, he said, look, I got up to 240 pounds. Well, he's lost well over 40 of that. He looks better than he's looked in years.
Yeah.
And, man, his mind, sharp as can be. Great asset for the Reds organization, and I would imagine that he will continue to be a bigger and bigger part of it moving forward in years to come. Meanwhile, the Rays have brought on their closer, Bartolo Colomé.
Alex
Colomé. There once was a former leaguer, Bartolo Colomé. See, 19 of 22 in save situations. He really burst on the scene with these Rays last year when Brad Boxberger, their closer from the year before, wasn't the same guy, and this guy became the guy.
You're right. He made the All-Star team last year.
Well, there is something about Jeanette and these pitchers for the Rays. He walked his first time up. He got to 3 balls in a 4th inning at bat, and then walked again in the 7th inning, and here he is 3-0 in the 9th.
Well, they evidently were watching a couple of bow tie Tuesdays ago when he went deep 4 times.
Yes. Reds down by 3, batting here in the 9th inning. Strike 2. Away in the inning.
9 strikeouts for Rays pitchers. Just a little over, and everyone wins. Free buffer combo meals from Burger King, courtesy of Dave's Furniture. Now batting, first baseman Joey Votto.
That's down to their final out. High drive by Votto way back, and Joey has just hit number 20 on the year. Well, he jumped all over that pitch. That ball launched out near the scoreboard out there beyond the deck and right. 20 home runs for Votto, and here we are on June the 20th.
Amazing. Having an incredible year. You know, he was hitting the ball to left field each and every time up, except for a ground ball to second base. And this time I think he determined, you know what? Colomé's got a big lead right here. He's going to get ahead fastball, and I'm going to be ready for it.
is that mashed. What a hitter. What a hitter. Duvall hooks one into left field. So now the Reds will bring the tying run to the plate as Duvall doubles into the corner. And we know Suarez has more than enough thunder to tie this baby up.
Third baseman, Suarez.
Like a breaking ball, the column just kind of hung right there. He is throwing it down the middle here. Now Sucre and Colomé will get together as Duvall settles in at second base.
Well, this is a kind of game that has lulled virtually everyone to sleep, even those in the ballpark. It's just been one of those kind of games. And now all of a sudden, maybe the Reds can sneak up on you. Last year they struggled in the blown saves, 9th inning home runs allowed. This Tampa Bay bullpen is no sure bet. They're hoping to have Boxberger back next week. That will help. Tying one is Suarez. Reds down 2, but down to their final strike and their final out. Colomé, the pause, and now the 1-2. Hooked into left field. This will fall in a hit, and the Reds will score another run. And it is a one-run game as the Reds have come up with a pair here in the 9th inning, and now the go-ahead run comes to the plate.
I can't even believe that Dickerson didn't just automatically throw that ball to second base. Now, Suarez was not able to get to second on this anyway, but this goes to show you where the Rays are a long way from being a good fundamental team right here. He's actually going to throw the ball in towards home. And the Rays, fortunately for Longoria, he's there to cut it off. Boy, oh boy.
Well, now a pinch runner, Arismendi Alcantara, will come on and run for Suarez, who has a 2-hit game and drives in a couple of runs.
Your attention, please. Pinch running for Cincinnati, number 30, Arismendi Alcantara.
So now Schebler. What happens if he runs into one right now? Reds came to bat trailing 6-2 in the 8th inning. Came up with a run. 6-3 coming into the 9th against this Rays closer, and now within a run. 1-1 on Schebler.
Well, the Rays outfield now playing very, very deep. They want to prevent a double that gets behind them where Alcantara can end up scoring. Alame trying to kick it into gear here.
Take a look. Schebler, along with Ryan Zimmerman of the Nationals, tied for the most road home runs so far this year. It's hard to believe with Schebler playing at Great American Ballpark, more home runs on the road than he does on the home front. 12-7. Popped up behind the plate and out of play.
That was almost an all Cincinnati leaderboard.
Yep. Which is surprising because the Reds play in such a homer-friendly ballpark. Schebler club 1 year last night is 12th on the road.
I don't think Schebler gets too many cheapies.
Some of the Reds fans excited, standing and hoping that Schebler perhaps can find the seats way back in right. 2-2 pitch. And that's the old ball game. Colomé picks up his